Resistance creates suffering, presence creates peace. And that's really what I want to kind of focus on during this winter challenge is resting, right? Building our awareness for what we're doing in our life, what habits are we doing, what things are serving us. The winter is a time of releasing old patterns or habits. It is a time of hibernation. And I know it's January, and this is typically my biggest challenge, but we're really kind of like grinding against ourselves in some ways when we try and like change things a lot in January. It is still, despite the 70 degrees outside, it is still a time of like death and rebirth, so to speak, right? We are, I think a lot of times humans consider themselves different from nature, but we are a part of it, right? We are not outside of the earth, we are a piece of the earth. So we should flow with the same cycles that are happening around us, right? So wintertime, right, things kind of tend to quiet down, the days get shorter, we can start to release old habits or patterns that didn't work for us last year. One of the things that we're gonna do is journal, so you guys can write to yourselves, like what was working for me last year, what wasn't, and try and bring some awareness to that space. We can try and strengthen these kind of like daily rhythms. So we're gonna really focus on sleep, right? Picking a set sleep and wake time so we are kind of getting into a good rhythm rather than just kind of like be all over the place. Yeah, and a little bit of self-reflection. So like I said, primary goals, like building awareness before we make like big changes, right? Don't try and like just, totally change things and like really try and like grind it, right? Because it's really not a good time of year to start grinding. Spring is the time to like kind of wake up and get after it. Try and work on what makes, and bringing some clarity to your lives as well. We want to work on some habits that are supporting who you're going to become rather than who we've been in the past. And then the last thing is like, don't be too hard on yourself about this. A lot of times people will get into these challenges and they'll hit it real hard for like 4 or 5 days, and then they'll miss a day, and then it's kind of like, well, what's the point, This is not one of those challenges, right? I'd rather you guys try and show up each day, right? Try and be consistent with things, even if it's imperfect, right? Even if you have a birthday party and you go out and you have a few drinks, whatever, you just don't get points for clean eating that day, right? There's no negative points, you just don't get positive points, right? The app I have set up so there's no like negative. You're not gonna like reduce yourself for anything, all right? It's okay, shit happens, your kids get sick, right? Whatever it is, life is gonna try you. The thing I really wanted to talk about is like really kind of like listening into your body and what you need. A lot of times we tend to like live up in the mind, right? And a big part of this focus is like, how do we bring ourselves from the mind like down into our body and see what the body needs? Do we need a rest day? Do we need some more food? Do we need to chill out a little bit, right? Am I like manic, right? We want to work on slowing everything down this time of year. Like I said, not about perfection, doing it right. It's not a huge detox or reset or extreme transformation. That might happen, all right, but it's not really time for that. We kind of set it up a little competition-wise because there are prizes at the end, but it's not like, don't get too manic about the competitive aspect, Katie and Taylor. This isn't a test of your willpower or motivation, right? It's just an opportunity for you guys to experiment a little bit, right? Play around. What does this feel like if I'm meditating every day? What does this feel like if I'm eating my protein first? Oh, I'm used to not eating breakfast in the morning. Maybe I try and eat a little bit of breakfast in the morning. What does that feel like, right? Play around with it a little bit. The awareness you're kind of like bringing to your life rather than unconsciously going to the cupboard and like grabbing whatever Fruit Loops or things you were eating in the past, right? Bring some awareness to it. Why am I doing this? What am I avoiding that I'm like walking into my pantry and eating this sugary food? And then the last thing is like consistency beats intensity, right? I'd rather you pick like 1 or 2 things that you really want to focus on and really dial that in rather than, we have 8 habits, rather than pick all 8 and go, I'm doing it all. That's great if you can, right? But if you haven't dialed in some of the other things and like eating clean is going to be really hard for you, maybe that's your focus for today, right? The point of this is to pick up something from this challenge, even if it's one thing, and carry that into the rest of your life, right? The ripples from that are huge, right? You pick up meditation and you meditate for the next 40 years, that is huge. You eat clean from now till forever, that's huge, right? A major impact on your health. You do it for 30 days and then you throw it out the window, it's probably not going to do a lot for you. I always like this quote, do not try and think your way into a new way of acting, you want to act your way into a new way of thinking, right? When you wake up, there's going to be that resistance, like, supposed to like meditate, right? Or I'm supposed to like read my book in the evening. And you're gonna feel this resistance, and then your mind is gonna pop in and it's gonna go, but what if we just watch TV, you know? What if we just eat first, you know? Go with the first instinct, right? The first instinct, just act. Do it, sit down. There's not one morning I wake up there I wanna go sit on my cushion and do breath work, right? I feel a ton of resistance, but the moment I get into that 10th breath, it just, it's gone, right? It's easy once you get into that. Right? The universe responds to your thoughts and intentions, but it's through that aligned action that you're going to get results. It's action-based. Habitica is the app that I'm going to have you guys download. This is new for me, and we were talking about technology this morning. So bear with me as we get into this. It seems very simple from what I've seen. It should pull up your habits each day, and you should be able to go through and click into those habits, right? Accomplished, accomplished, accomplished. This is hopefully a little bit more streamlined than the spreadsheet we used to have where you'd accidentally click the wrong day and give yourself like 6 habits you may or may not have done. It's also like based on like a little point system that you like create your own little emoji, and it'll give you like little gold rewards for hitting your habits each day. There's a weekly monster that you'll battle also for our weekly challenges, and you get rewarded on your points for how quickly you beat the boss also. So we're going to play around with it, right? If it's imperfect in some ways, please don't yell at me. This is the first time we've done it, so but hopefully it's cool. We'll also be doing, there's a community board in there for our challenge, so I've created a separate challenge within this thing. And you guys will join that challenge, and then the weekly quest is the weekly challenges we'll be doing, right? And that's where you're like defeating the monster. I think the first one's like the Dust Bunny challenge or something. Not the challenge is about dust bunnies, but that's the first that's the first like easy boss. That's the first easy boss you fight. So the 8 habits we'll be concentrating on. I don't know if you would call it like our mantra or something, but we have these 4 categories we kind of think about in terms of the gym, right? Move well, eat well, think well, live well, right? So that's what these categories are going to be around. There's going to be a few habits for move well, a few habits for eat well, a few for think well, a few for live well. Yeah. So I don't often get to talk about this. We're not technically a CrossFit gym anymore, but we still use that methodology. But CrossFit as a methodology, right? What we do in here and what we're trying to accomplish is we categorize fitness in 10 different physical skills, right? Endurance being your heart and lung capacity, stamina, how long can you sustain a max effort, strength, force production, how much can you push into something, flexibility, what's your full range of motion, power, force, and speed, right? Moving fast, coordination, moving efficiently, agility, changing direction, balance, control your body, accuracy, control movement precisely, right? These are the 10 categories of physical health that CrossFit has recognized that makes someone healthy. So this is like year 18, I think I've been doing this kind of exercise. And I was just talking to Alex Palmer about it last night. I'm probably as heavy as I've ever been this particular moment, and it's so interesting to watch like the weight movements feel really good, right? But then my gymnastics are harder, right? We had to do strict pull-ups last night. And oh God. So I know for me, right, I can see where my ideal weight is probably a little bit lighter, right? Maybe 210, 215, somewhere in that range. But what it does a really good job of is finding what is your ideal like shape and position if you wanted to be able to do a lot of different things very well, right? And that's how I think about these challenges, okay? How do I extrapolate what we're doing in here and bring it into your life, right? What are the skills? How calm are you, right? How cool are you under pressure? If someone pisses you off, how quickly can you emotionally regulate yourself, right? If your kids drive you crazy, are you yelling at them, right? Or are you taking a breath and like responding, right? How are you sleeping? What are the other aspects of your life? What are the other skills, right, that you can incorporate so that you can find your ideal human self? So you can perform in your community, you can do what you're meant to do here. That's the overall target. So for the Move Well category, we got 10 to 15 minutes of daily maintenance. This is just caring for your body. I have a proposed order for you guys to do this in. 10, 15 minutes isn't very much time. You can do this while you're lying in bed at night, or lying on your floor watching TV or whatever you're doing at night or reading your book. But doing a little bit of soft tissue manipulation. If you guys have a foam roller, you can even use like a can of soup or something if you want to kind of roll out in the evening. So foam roller, massage ball, lacrosse ball, Just kind of rolling out problem areas, right? We want to be able to do maintenance. What we ask you to do in here is some crazy stuff sometimes, and I know everybody gets like little tweaks here and there. Are you ignoring it, right? Are we waiting until it manifests into something bigger, or are we going to bring some awareness to it, right? Back to that awareness piece. This has been bothering me for a while. I haven't gotten to see Tiffany. Ben hasn't given me a massage. What can I do to kind of like massage myself, right? Improve that tissue glide. So you have this system of fascia that runs all across all your muscles and even inside your muscles around all the fibers of your muscles. And that fascia can get stuck, right? And when it gets stuck, it's kind of like if I were to pinch your pants, right? Now I can't like straighten my leg all the way. It's kind of like that. So you bring in a foam roller or a lacrosse ball or softball and you restore that gliding tissue, all right? Once you do that, you want to stretch it out, right? We kind of like mash up the fascia and stretch it out a little bit. I want to do some stretches, loosen it up a little bit. And then the last thing is like stability and control. So there's people that have hypermobility, right? Tons of mobility in their shoulder. You can bring it way back here, but it's not very stable. Once you guys roll, stretch, then you want to like stabilize whatever that muscle is. So if you know you don't have good shoulder range of motion, let's say I start in the mornings here, I stretch it out and I get to about here. After about 30 minutes, my body's going to bring me right back here because I don't feel safe in that position. So some kind of stability work. Maybe it's holding a downward dog. Maybe it's holding a dumbbell over your head. Maybe you got a small child that's holding your kid overhead. It's something to stabilize that muscle, all right? So that's just like a proposed idea for how you should approach this. If you spend 10 to 15 minutes just rolling out, cool. You'll feel good. Attending class will be one of our other ones. This is going to be one of our biggest point categories. You get 4 points for this, right? Because it's hard, right? It is hard. Especially those 25-minute AMRAPs like we have today. You should get 4 stars for that one. If you cannot make class, you're on a vacation, you got something to do, if you do an equivalent to class, you can count that. But I don't want you doing it 7 days a week. Do not do that, right? 5 days max. All right, you need at least 2 rest days in the mix somewhere.
Is a 30-minute run equal to?
I'll let you be the decision maker.
1 hour?
Yeah, roughly an hour, right? We're not like doing high intensity for an hour, right? So yeah, be smart about it. Usually we're working out hard for like 30 minutes. So if you move around, you know what the deal is, right? Be ethical about it. Class is a priority, right? If you can make class, come to class. Because some of the days aren't that bad, right? We're doing sumo deadlifts and some strict pull-ups, not a big deal, right? So class will be 4 points, mobility 2.
Everything hurts.
Everything So I tend to recommend kind of a primal diet. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they just switched the food pyramid about friggin' time, right? So
more alcohol.
Oh wait, is that just me?
This is what we're looking like now, right? Which we've known for a long time, right? Use your freaking common sense, right? You're eating a ton of bread, not a good idea, right? But prioritizing your protein, vegetables, right? Clean quality sources are really important, right? You are what you eat, and you are what they eat, right? So if you're eating grass-fed or corn-fed cows that aren't getting out, they're just eating, whatever's in the stall with them. You're going to take whatever that is in, right? All the inflammation that animal's getting, all that stuff is going directly into your body. So you want to make sure you're eating like grass-fed. Actually, I was in Walmart shopping the other day. But there's like grass-fed milk, right? And there's, grass-fed beef. And like these things weren't around. In 2012 when I moved here, these things were not available, right? So it's really nice that, there's Kerrygold butter. There's all these things that we've seen improve over these last few years. So there's really no excuse other than like maybe the price of it. Eggs also weren't like $7 a carton. But there's no excuse to not buy quality if you have the means to do it, right? If you're going to spend your money on something, do it on whatever you're taking into your food because ultimately your health is super important. And it's going to cost you way more on the back end if you're not prioritizing that aspect. So protein, drinking enough water. We have a water slide coming up, but one of the things that we'll have is the sauna, right? And if you guys are saunaing or if you're drinking a lot of coffee, you want to make sure you're drinking more water. So typically the recommendation is half your body weight in ounces of water. You can infuse it with herbs, fruits, cucumber, right, to get some extra micronutrients in there as well and hydration. Incorporating 3 servings of seasonal fruit and vegetables daily, right? Try and find some things that you like and incorporate those things as well, right? You're going to get a lot of nutrients from those varying colors of vegetables as well. And then hitting your caloric intake is important as well. So you're not, burning the wheels on both ends. Or burning the candle on both ends. I recommend fasting. So pillars of healthy eating, right? Take care of these things first, and then there's some secondary supplementary things to tweak. Fasting between meals, right? You used to say like eat 6 meals a day, right? Maybe if your goal is to like really put on a ton of muscle, but for the most part, you want to give your digestive system a break, right? Think of yourself as kind of like a battery, right? If you're constantly digesting food, it takes a lot of energy, right? So you want to make sure that you're eating kind of a, decent breakfast. Your biggest meal should come post-exercise, right? As much as you can get in, all right? And then in the evenings, you want to make sure that you're not eating like right before bed. Same thing, right? Sleep is a time for recovery. You want to make sure if you're eating right before bed, you're going to spend most of your night digesting, which is not very much recovery. Follow meal timing, 20 to 30 grams of protein post-exercise, and at sleep at night, you want to hit a roughly 12-hour fasting window, right? What does that mean? If I eat at 8 o'clock at night, right, I don't want to eat until 8 o'clock the next morning. 12 hours. Anything less than 12 hours has been shown to be a big increase in cancer risk, right? Because you're not giving your body enough time to digest, right? You get a lot of mutation going on when you do that. You can play around with intermittent fasting, 16, maybe instead of 12 hours, maybe you want to limit it a little bit more. If you're typically someone who eats too much, intermittent fasting can be a very healthy tool to limit your feeding window to 8 hours, right? So stop eating at 8 at night, don't eat till 12 o'clock the next day. All right, it's intermittent, so some days have breakfast, right? It doesn't mean every day, all right? But you can get in trouble with that too. I've done that one. I was talking about that hormonal problem earlier. I've definitely dropped my hormones by not eating enough food. So, Yuka app. I think everybody's heard of this for the most part so far. But if you don't have the Yuka app, I would download it immediately and then go into your house and scan every barcode of every piece of food you have. Also scan all of your lotions, scan all your shampoos, scan all of your sunscreen, all of it, because it'll tell you whether it's clean or not, and it'll tell you what kind of harmful chemicals are in there. I did this last year in the summer times, which is super sad. I went to Walmart and I went to Publix. I scanned every single suntan lotion and sunscreen, and all of it had garbage in it. Some kind of like cancer-causing material, right? Giant boost in sun cancer. I'm not telling you not to wear sunscreen. You can put zinc on yourself, but there are natural sunscreens out there, and there are also ones that are you're lathering yourself up with chemicals, and then you're going to go bake yourself in the radiating sun, right? Just be mindful, right? The same thing with your groceries. Just because it's in the grocery store does not mean it's food. Let that sink in for a second. Just because it's in the grocery store does not mean it's safe for human consumption, right? We're finding a lot of that out now with all the dyes they're removing from foods. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's making people very sick. We're going to get to some of the obesity and chronic disease numbers in the United States later, and it's not just like, I don't know why it's happening, all right? Sugar. Right? We really want to be mindful of sugar intake, right? So clean eating means no additional sugar, no white sugar, no any of the oses that you're going to see on all the packages, right? Try and stick to stuff. I kind of put it this way, right? If nature created it, it's probably pretty safe for you, right? If it doesn't go bad, it's not food. All right?
So what about supplements like stevia, for example?
Honey, monk fruit extract, stevia.
They don't spike insulin.
Yeah, that's what they say. That is what they say. I'd just be careful with it, right? There is some suggestion that even just the taste of something sweet can have that like effect, kind of like a Pavlov's dog kind of deal. It really depends on your priorities, right? Like honey, we say is allowed, right? It's a natural sugar, right? We've allowed stevia in the past, but if your goal is ultimately weight loss and you can't figure out why you're not losing weight, and you have a sweet tooth, well, if you're constantly eating sweet things, you're kind of like priming yourself to eat sweet things. All right, so just be mindful. Excessive sugar spikes dopamine. It is an addictive, habit-forming behavior to constantly get sugar, right? How many people have tried to stop drinking and all of a sudden you have a sweet tooth, right? It happens very often. Right? So same kind, you're feeding one addiction with another, right? A lot of chronic diseases come from this increasing inflammation, right? Raising your risk of Alzheimer's and depression. Immune system suppression, right? I heard one time that when you take sugar in, it's not only fat soluble, but it's also water soluble, meaning it gets into every piece, every cell of your body. One of the things that's kind of interesting we learned about was neutrophils, or like the immune system's first responders. They rush into infection, attack microbes, or release chemical signals. And when you eat sugar, right, an hour after your consumption, those neutrophils drop by 50%. They stay there for another hour, and it takes the next 3 hours for them to climb back. So you can imagine your 6-year-old son in school. They wake up and have cereal for breakfast. Then they go to school and they get a cupcake from the teacher. And then they get off school and they go to the dentist and they get a lollipop from the dentist. And then they go to soccer practice and they get Gatorade, right? You've just exposed that child to a whole day with a suppressed immune system. And oh, my kid's always sick when he comes back home from daycare. I can't figure out why, right? And that's like a little 50-pound kid, right? I mean, it's brutal. So it's really important to, like, not only for yourself, but like extrapolate that out, right, into the general public, right? And think about how much sugar people are eating. Going to McDonald's and having a big gulp, right? And just how crushing that is to your immune system. So just try and eat like as best as you can and try to avoid these things that are really making you sick. Oh, yeah, sorry. Graphic slide next. So, diabetes, right? Like essentially you're eating so much sugar that it's turning your blood into kind of a syrup, right? And why are people's feet the first thing to sacrifice, right? Because all those big blood vessels get smaller and smaller and smaller the further you go away from your heart, and you got this sludge, right? This Hershey's chocolate syrup trying to make its way to the extremities, right? And then you get a little nick on your foot, and your body cannot send the resources down to fix it, and so they have to start chopping little pieces of your leg off. Right? It's brutal, right? Same thing with your eyes, right? You get diabetes in your eyes, glaucoma, all these issues with your eyes because you have all these small little blood vessels, and now you've got this syrup in your system, and there's no way for your eyes to get taken care of. It is graphic, but this is, Casey said she wished she could take people to the hospital with her.
No, I wish the same thing.
Yeah, Lily too,
Same thing.
right? I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal, and we kind of tend to ignore it, right? Once again, awareness. What are we bringing our awareness to? Are we aware of what we're taking into our bodies, right? Because this is the result, right? This is the extreme of what can happen, but it's not far off, right? It's not far off. So just be careful. It also makes you look older. Ladies, it also makes you look older. I know the guys here talk about it, but seed oils are another thing that's very common. Things we used to sell Perfect bars here, and I was so sad to find out that there were seed oils in there as well. And seed oils are a byproduct of industrial lubricant, I believe, and they had to find a way to sell it, right? It's just really not meant for human consumption. A lot of omega-6s in seed oils as well, which is an inflammatory marker. You get a lot of inflammation from it. A lot of it comes in like salad dressings, canola oil, vegetable oil. Yeah, my mom, I grew up on freaking vegetable oil. My mom's got Alzheimer's now also, and I always wonder, I'm like vegetable oil on the salad dressing all the time, makes me super anxious to even think about, but it's in everything, right? Because it's cheap. It's in everything because it's cheap. So start looking at your labels, get your Yucca app. It's got canola oil, seed oil, cottonseed oil, any of these things. Olive oil's fine, butter's fine. Try and stick to those things. Avocado oil seems to be okay. Just be very careful about how you guys are doing that. So increasing risk of chronic disease, weight gain, risk of obesity, reduced insulin sensitivity in the body and brain, systemic inflammation. If your whole body's inflamed all the time, and just look, right? Go home, take all your clothes off, right? Stand at yourself, look in the mirror. What's going on? Do I have rashes, right? Do I have like dry skin, right? Your body is talking to you, right? Do I have weird sores that are not healing, right? We saw the diabetes picture. What is happening? How's my skin, right? What is coming out? Because what ends up happening is you eat food, right? This is like you eat a bunch of chocolate or sweets. What happens? You get these like pussy things on your face, right? It's your system is excreting all this stuff, and it's coming out, right? So just look, pay attention. More than 40% of the U.S. population is considered obese. More than 58% of the population has high blood pressure, and then 60% of the population has at least one chronic illness. 60%. I think that's on the low end also. Yeah. It's not tough stuff. Alcohol. Also a really tough one, right? Very common. I've seen a huge drop off in people consuming alcohol, but it's still around, right? It is baked into our culture. If you watch movies, even like the Marvel movies and like these kids movies, they're always drinking in these movies. Always. I'm like, why is this so prevalent? It is a big piece of our culture. It's unfortunate in some ways, but it's going to disrupt your REM sleep, especially your deep sleep. So if your goal is to like get stronger in the gym, but we're having a few drinks at night, every drink you consume in the evening, it takes 1 hour for your body to clear that out. And during that hour, let's say I have a cocktail at 9 o'clock at night, right? Until 10, my body's going to be processing that alcohol. So even if I pass out at 9, right, it's going to be at least 10 until I can actually like get into some rest, and probably a little bit longer than that, right? So now instead of getting 8 hours of sleep, I got 7, right? And let's take that to the extreme. Now I'm having 2 or 3 drinks at 9 o'clock at night. Well, now it's going to be midnight before I'm cleared out, and then I have to get up at 5 the next morning. So now I'm getting 5 hours of sleep, right? This is how it works. Same thing with digestion, right? Alcohol's rough because it's a direct poison to the system. Your body takes it in as poison, it creates a different kind of poison, and then you process that out. But digestion's the same way. If I'm having a huge meal at 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to be processing that for the next 4 hours. So instead of my body being able to repair, now I'm digesting, right? You don't sleep as well, your body temperature goes up, your heart rate increases. It's not a good time to be snacking. If you're someone who wakes up in the middle of the night and eats, please stop. Do not do that. Find any other means than eating in the middle of the night. And think about this. This is kind of basic, but it gets dark at what, like 5:30 here? Next time you feel like snacking late, go outside in the dark and eat whatever you're going to eat, right? In the pitch black. It would be so weird to go outside and have a steak in the middle of the night, right? And not be able to see what you're eating. It just doesn't make sense, right? So you got to think about how we evolved. We were not going out and like killing a buffalo at midnight and eating it, right? It just wasn't happening. You would sleep. There's no reason to go outside. It's dark, right? Keep that in mind, right? Try and sync with these rhythms. Yeah, I mean, alcohol, it's rough on all systems. Hormonal imbalance, stress on your organs. Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, it's rough. And not to say that there can't be some balance there, but I suggest having your drinks a little bit earlier in the day, right?
It's not a drug.
Yeah, start in the morning, right? Give yourself, start in the morning, go exercise. Start in the morning, go exercise at 3 p.m., get it all out of your system, right? Go to bed early.
And spread them out by an hour. Throughout the day.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. You can be smart about it, right? So the dosing matters, right? I was listening to a podcast about this. The dosing is very important. So the reason a shot is so much harder on you than a beer is because how quickly you're throwing it into your system, right? You're kind of like overloading the system all at once versus taking in like small bits. So if you are going to go out to a wedding or something, you have like an important event or you want to have a couple drinks at night, it's really important to dilute it, right? So have a glass of wine, but then have a glass of water in between. Glass of wine, glass of water, glass of wine, glass of water, right? Spread it out. Give yourself some space in between so you're not tossing it all into your system at once. One of the hardest things is like, you know, when you see someone drink a Coke, right? They drink the whole Coke like super fast. Your body just doesn't have the time to respond to that, and it's super unnatural. There's nothing out there that has 65 grams of sugar in it. Nothing. It just doesn't really exist in nature, right? Fruit has fiber in it, so you're already getting some, sugar from fiber or sugar from the fruit, but it's got fiber in it, so it's slowing that digestion. It's almost like it was put here for a reason. Crazy, It's really cool also, like eating seasonally is also really interesting because nature provides what we need during different times of year. All right, so these are the seasonal fruits and veggies for this region, this time of year, right? Collard greens, kale, mustard greens, turnip greens, spinach, Swiss chard, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, lettuce, right? Stick to those things. Fruits, there's some apples, citrus also kind of becomes big. Weird, it gets dark out, everybody starts getting sick, and then the universe provides citrus, which is full of vitamin C. Oh, that's so interesting. Huh? Roots, right? Sweet potatoes, beets, carrots, turnips, radishes, parsnips, potatoes, celery root, alliums, which are green onions and leeks. So grounding and warming root vegetables and hard greens provide slow-burning energy, minerals, and warmth, supporting body during colder, lower, lighter months. Nervous system and immunity support. Winter greens and brassicas are rich in magnesium, vitamin C, and antioxidants, which help regulate stress, inflammation, and immune resilience. And then winter is the time of conservation and repair. These foods are dense, mineral-rich, and stabilizing, mirroring the body's natural need to rest and rebuild. don't eat fruits that are not part of the season, right? Because the fruits that come out in the summer are meant for like energy, right? You're gonna be outside, you're gonna be doing a lot of things. That's not the time of year for it, right? This is the time of year to rest and digest. So don't be spiking yourself with a bunch of sugar because we're not meant to be out running around like crazy people. It gets dark at 5. So clean eating points, right? Get 3 points for clean eating all day. I'll send out like a sheet of like the things we recommend and things we don't. You guys will get some emails after this, so I don't expect you to write all this down. The Think Well category. So we're gonna have some daily journaling going on. So in the group, this is the part of the things I don't know because I couldn't set the group up prior to us all doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put out a journal prompt each day, right? And it's going to have a journal prompt based on the book also, or some aspects of the book, kind of a focus for it and like an intention, right? And so 5 to 10 minutes, just sitting down, writing your thoughts. Doesn't have to be a manuscript. If you want to write more some days, fine. If you don't, that's fine also. But just working on reflection, release, right? When we reflect on things, a lot of times our mind can kind of like be spinning around things, right? But when we sit down and like write it out, it actually requires us to kind of get clear on the things we want versus just like watching your monkey spin around in your head. So slowing down your mind. The other thing we're going to work on is consistent sleep and wake times. I'm actually really excited about this. A lot of these challenges, I don't want to share a little trade secret for me also, right? These are things that I need to work on. So I'm really excited about this because when you start setting your sleep and wake times, you align your rhythm of your body. We talk about rhythms, right? You're getting back into that sense. When it gets dark at 5:30, you want to start winding down. Artificial light, TVs, these things. If you're going to expose yourself to those things, at least get yourself some like really good quality blue light blocking glasses. Right? But the goal is ultimately not to try and hack your way out of a bad habit, right? The ultimate goal is just turn your TV off and sit down and read your book like you're supposed to. All right? But fix sleep and wake times, right? To help support your hormone regulation. So one of the cool things I've learned over the years is light is the ultimate hormone regulator, right? When it gets dark at night, it's important actually for us to be outside and watch all the color spectrums change as the sun goes down. Just as equally as important as us getting up in the morning and watching all these color spectrums open up as the sun comes up. All these different rays of light set your hormones, right? Your melatonin, so can't sleep at night, first thing to do, wake up and get some sunlight in the morning. First thing, right? Because that'll set your nighttime, which is kind of like counterintuitive, right? It's really important to get sunlight first thing in the morning so you have a good night's sleep that night. We're aiming for 7.5 hours of sleep nightly. This is super important just in terms of like overall recovery, right? Sleep is a practice, not a luxury. Breath work and soft belly meditation. So one of the things that's suggested in the book is doing a soft belly meditation. The best thing I know how to describe this is, you ever seen like a 3-year-old, right? When they walk around, what is their belly doing? It's just hanging out, right? Just full belly, right? As we get older, you typically store a lot of trauma in your belly, right? So, you go into first grade and they're like, you look weird. And what do? You go, like, oh, you tighten up, right? Oh, that hurts, So you end up storing a lot of like trauma and emotions in your belly. And the goals of these meditations is to really like relax, right? And notice, right? One of the things that we're gonna be doing, feel it, Phil. Yeah, feel it. It's gonna feel better at the end of the challenge, right? It's gonna be a little less fat, right? And it's gonna be a little looser from all the soft belly meditation. But as you're meditating, right, thoughts will come up, right? Something's gonna come up that like pisses you off. I can't believe my boss said that, whatever. I can't believe my husband said that. I can't believe my wife said that, right? And when you feel that, your belly's gonna go like that, and you're gonna notice that tension. You're gonna breathe into it and try and let it relax, right? We're trying to create space in your body, all right? Cool. The other thing is contemplating death. We have a year to live, guys. We only have 1 year to live. So we're gonna read this book. Hopefully we're not. We're gonna read this book. There's a bunch of interesting things on here that talk about people as they're experiencing death. There's some good exercises in here as well. And the point is to bring awareness to the present moment, right? I was just Sam Harris talk a while ago, and he was talking about going skiing. And he hadn't been skiing in like 20 years. And he's like, what would it have been like to be so present the last time I went skiing to recognize like how beautiful it was to go skiing, right? Like I don't play soccer anymore. And like, I don't remember the last time I played soccer really, right? There's going to be times where you do something for the last time. I heard this about kids the other day. One time, you're going to pick your kid up for the last time. And like, how present are you for each one of those moments? It's interesting. Something to focus on. There's a lot of lessons in thinking about death. We talked about the journaling, guided prompts. Just noticing things. I kind of already talked about this a little bit. 5 to 10 minutes daily. One thing you guys can start to practice, right, is as these your thoughts about the day come up, setting up an intention for the day. So when you sit down and do your breath work and meditation, right, what is your intention for the day? How do you want to show up? These journaling prompts are going to have some of those things in there for you, right? How are you going to show up for your coworkers? How are you going to show up for your wife? What's something nice you can do, right? Setting an intention, right? Then acting on that intention. I want to make my wife happy today. I'm going to go buy her some flowers, right? That's the action, right? Result, wife's happy, hopefully, right?
If you get the right flowers.
Yeah, if you get the right flowers, that's right. But it can be anything, right? Set your intention around anything, but then put it into action, right? So there's an interesting concept about the universe, right? There's a concept that the universe is mind, right? Everything is a thought, right? Nothing was created in this world without somebody having a thought first. It's kind of interesting, right? Where does that come from? Something intelligent, right? So you have a thought. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go build that car. But if you don't ever do anything about it, that car's not getting built. It's that next step, that action piece, right? So if you have a thought, it seems like really important, put some action behind it, right? And then allow the universe to kind of move for you. Meditation. A lot of resistance to meditation. A lot of people in here also. Type A personalities. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to work out for 5 hours today, let's go. I'm waking up, I'm doing my stuff, right? And now I'm going to tell you to sit down and don't do anything, right? Very difficult, but I always, I'm kind of built for this in some ways, right? I like to look at a bunch of different things and kind of see where they all fit in, right? And 7 out of 8 of the world's major religions have meditation as a practice. Seems kind of important. Maybe you should spend some time in that state. The language differs in all these religions, but the function is always the same. Still the mind, open your heart, align with whatever you want to call it, truth, God, reality, the greater world. Reduces your egoic capacity, so it brings you out of your me self and into something a little bit bigger, and cultivates presence. This is the biggest thing, is the consistency factor of this and the compounding interest of meditation. You can do it every once in a while, and you'll get some benefit out of it, at least in the moment. Probably calms you down a little bit, helps you kind of find your center, but it is a culminating practice. It compounds on itself. So what you'll notice is if you do it for a day, you'll feel a little bit better in the moment, right? But if you do it for 2 days, it's going to be a little bit longer of a duration that this lasts. If you're doing it for several months every day, right, you'll notice a huge difference in little things. First of all is presence. You'll be way more present. Second of all, things won't irritate you nearly as much. I can always tell in traffic. Traffic's where I get it. If I'm not on a consistent meditation practice and someone does something, I get tight, right? What the hell? It's almost too close to you, right? Everything's right up on top of you. You ever had a real hard time, a real mental health crisis about something? You're gonna lose your job, or your spouse is gonna break up with you, or whatever, right? It feels like it's right on you, and there's nowhere to escape, right? It's on me. It's on me all day and all night. Maybe it's a financial stress. You got a huge bill or a tax bill in the mail. Consumes you for weeks at a time, right? Meditation is the act of giving yourself space from that. So if something like that does happen, you have a little room in between whatever you and that thing is. All right. Very helpful. Very important. Sit until the mind slows. Start slow and build. Don't start with 35 minutes. Maybe 5 if you've never done it before. I find the sweet spot to be around 20 minutes. But I spent a year doing 10 minutes, right? And then I was like, what happens if I go 20 minutes, and put my foot over the line? Big difference. Like I mentioned, cumulative practice. The other thing to do is, I mentioned Pavlov's dog a couple times. Everybody know what Pavlov's dog is? Ring the bell and the mouth will start to salivate, right? Find a spot dedicated for this. Find a spot dedicated for your breath work and meditation. Get a little cushion, have a little altar, Little corner in your house, maybe a bean bag, maybe it's a pillow. Don't do it in your bed. You're gonna pass out. You're not gonna. Sleeping is not meditating. All right. Sit upright, right? Flat back, right? It'll help with your posture also. It's gonna be really hard to start. You're gonna be like, my back hurts. Ugh. Stretch a little beforehand. Yoga in general they would stretch like that. We have a kind of a weird idea of yoga, but yoga, they would stretch like that so they could sit in meditation comfortably. Right? You want to loosen everything up so when you sit down, you're not like, God, I'm tight, right? So give yourself a little stretch in the morning. Maybe do your 10, 15 minutes. Sit. Breath work helps a ton because it gives you something to do. It gives the mind something to do. So if you're a type A personality, do 30 breaths like that and then relax. All right? I'm going to give you guys different breath work practices to kind of play around with, but I find it to be incredibly helpful. This is kind of along the lines of meditation. This is kind of a way to think about things in terms of like your awareness, and I'm trying to speak to you guys from where you are, right? So I always like the human eye as an example of this, right? The pupil, I always had a hard time with like racism or sexism or any of those things, because if you look at a human, right, what is the unifying factor of humans? We all have a pupil right in the middle of our eyes, and it's black. Everybody's pupils are the same. There's an aspect of all of us that is the same, right? We are all aware in this moment. What is that piece of you that feels the same now at 40 or 45 or 27 that feels the same as it did when you were 12? There's a piece there, right? Everybody kind of feels that, right? That piece of you that never feels like it's changing. That is your awareness, right? That is the awareness that connects all of us together, right? Then you can think about your iris, right? Your iris is the colored part around your eyes. No two people have the same iris, right? So that's interesting. That's like a little difference, right? It's like a little, like, signature, right? That's you, right? You consider that like your me self. Right, so there's this greater awareness that we all share, right? And then there's you, right? And the me self is your parents. It's your childhood. It's the sports you played. It's the friends you have. It's your experience of the world. So you're filtering this universal awareness through you, right? And that's your own unique expression. So when you meditate, think about what is this like awareness, right? This unifying factor. And that is essentially trying to like pull yourself out of your me self, right? And connect with like that universal piece. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's an interesting thought, right? And then when you look at other people, realize that they have the same awareness you do, and they're just looking at life through a totally different lens. And it's okay. That's just how they are. Deep thoughts. 3 points, sauna, right? For sauna, try and stay in just past discomfort when you guys are doing this, right? That might be 10 minutes for you. If you've been doing it for a while, typically most people stick for about 20 minutes, right? If you get in the sauna and it's at 70 degrees and it's gonna take some time to heat up, stand there for 25, 30, right? Ideally, right, we're staying in just a little bit past discomfort. A Year to Live, if you read 6 pages a day, you will finish in 30 days. It's not a very big book. I was smart about that, right? I'm not giving you a 500-pager this time. What's that?
You did that before?
No. I wouldn't dare. Yeah, we talked about the sunlight, master clock, right? Sleep is a hormonal event. Other tips for sleep, temperature drop, right? If you're really having a hard time sleeping, come do the sauna in the evening, right? Because you're increasing your body temperature. When your body temperature decreases when you go back outside, it naturally cues all those hormones for you to start sleeping. So in the evenings, if you keep your house at 72, drop it, right? Go down to, ideally, they say, somewhere between 67 and 69 degrees. Some of you guys may shudder at that. Another weird one I've learned is that if you're a hot sleeper, if you put socks on, it'll actually help cool your body down, because your body is trying to heat up the furthest extremity. So if my feet are cold, my core temperature will increase to try and increase my feet temperature. But if I can keep my feet warm, a lot of times it allows your internal temperature to cool down, right? You do have to go to bed with your socks on, which isn't very sexy, but anyway. We talked about digestion, right? Hydration, same thing. Don't be drinking a big 40 ounce of Big Gulp before you go to bed. meditation can be really helpful. I learned this also. If you're meditating before bed, so ideally you're doing like a 10-minute meditation, 10, 20 minutes in the morning and 10 or 20 in the evening, right? Once to like calm yourself down before you go into your day, and once to like kind of like consolidate everything that's happened that day and kind of set your mood for a good night's sleep. But what I found is that if I meditate in the evenings, 20 minutes in the evenings, I don't have to get up and pee in the middle of the night. It allows for like a deeper like sleep, right? You're really like calming yourself down. There is something about being conscious and letting your body be asleep. There is something about that state that is really good for humans, right? Andrew Huberman would call it non-sleep deep rest, right? It's meditation. Sauna, really good for detox, right? A lot of us take in like plastics and things in our food, right? Heavy metals, Teflon pans, all these things are like residing in the body. Sauna is one of the best ways to detox from all these toxins we're taking in, glyphosate in the lawns, whatever, stuff is in our drinking water. Muscle recovery, stress relief, enhanced skin health, really good for your skin health as well. Increased metabolism, improved sleep. If you're using sauna, I think it's 2 to 3 times a week, it's a 27% reduction in your likelihood of dying from any chronic illness. If you're using it 4 or 5 times a week, it's a 45 to 50% reduction of your likelihood of dying from like a heart attack or any of these types of things. If you're using it 4 or 5 times a week, it's a 60 to 70% reduction in your likelihood of getting Alzheimer's also. Everybody's a little bit afraid of that one, right? Get yourself in the sauna. Really good for your heart as well. Pain relief, right? Really good time to do it is either in the evenings before you go to bed, like I mentioned earlier, if you have a hard time sleeping. It's really good to do post-workout, all right? We're gonna get into the water slide next. I'm almost done, guys. I'm almost done. So normal training day, half your body weight in ounces of water. So a 180-pound person, right? 90 ounces a day, so it's 3 of these, right? If you're training plus sauna, you want to get an extra 16 to 32 extra ounces, right? And you want to make sure that you're putting minerals in there as well. So when you go in the sauna, right, or you get done exercising and you've got these like rings of salt around your clothes, that's your body excreting minerals and electrolytes, right? So you need to replace those things. If you find yourself cramping a lot, right, that's a good indicator that you don't have enough mineral electrolytes in there as well. All right. Replace what you sweat out. If you're drinking coffee, this is also an interesting one. Coffee is dehydrating, right? So if you're drinking a cup of coffee, you want to make sure you're adding 8 to 12 ounces of water per cup, right, to your overall. All right. If you're drinking 3 cups of coffee, right, you're going to add 36 ounces roughly of water on top of that. All right. I mentioned the coffee in the morning. You want to wait 90 minutes, right? When you wake up in the morning, your brain has this chemical called adenosine in there. And adenosine is the chemical that makes you feel tired, right? So when you wake up feeling groggy, right, you have this adenosine circulating in your brain, right? And as you progress through your morning and do your breath work and sunlight, the brain clears that adenosine and allows you to be awake. If you drink coffee within 90 minutes, you block the receptors that clear that adenosine, right? So in the afternoon, when your coffee wears off, that caffeine wears off, that adenosine is still circulating in your brain. So that caffeine wears off, what happens? You get tired. 90 minutes, all right? Last thing on breath work, right? I find it to be it's kind of like learning how to drive your car, right? This is your car, right? Breath work is a way of managing how that car runs, right? You want to be in first gear, kind of get things going or rev things up, right? As we get into third or fourth gear, you can change up your breath pattern in order to manage that. You start to get stressed from school, work, whatever. Long, slow exhales. You want to get jacked up because you're going out with the boys, take a couple of deep breaths real fast, all right? You can consider it like the horse and rider, right? The mind is the horse, powerful, emotional, reactive, built to move. The breath is the rider, right? You determine the pacing. You start to feel yourself get stressed out, bring awareness to your breath. Am I taking little shallow breaths? Right? Breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah, it's the only autonomic nervous system function that you can consciously control, right? We can't control our digestion, we can't control our heartbeat necessarily, right? We can control the breath, right? It's one of the only things that we can control, and that will soothe the rest of the system. Last thing, a year to live. I know you guys are getting tired. A year to live, like I mentioned, death kind of clearly identifies what's important to us in life. It's something we often avoid. I've heard also that fear is all linked to a fear of death, right? I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Why are you afraid you're going to lose your job? Well, I'm afraid I'm not going to have any money. Why are you afraid you're not going to have any money? Well, then I'm going to be homeless. Why are you afraid you're going to be homeless? Because I'm not going to be able to feed myself. Why are you afraid you're not going to be able to feed yourself? Because I'm going to die, right? It all kind of like leads back to this like death aspect of things. So we want to examine that as we move through this. All right. You can tell I'm losing some of you. We'll get going. You guys will get some emails from me. Everybody make sure you put your email in there. If you have a partner in mind, you guys can put your partner next to it. All right. I got a little spreadsheet in there. You guys will get some emails tomorrow. Download the app. Make sure you go shopping tomorrow. Thank you for your time. Love you guys.